you are probably not lazy, at least not in the way you think. Because a truly lazy person doesn't spend hours imagining a better future. They don't constantly think about success. They don't feel guilty for wasting time. They don't lie awake wondering what they could become. Yet millions of ambitious people wake up every morning trapped in the same cycle. Big dreams, no action. Massive goals, little progress. Every day they promise themselves they'll start tomorrow, and every tomorrow looks exactly like yesterday. So what is happening? If you want success so badly, why do you keep avoiding the actions that could create it? Most people answer that question with a single word: laziness. But what if that's the wrong diagnosis? What if the real enemy isn't laziness at all? What if hidden psychological forces are quietly controlling your behavior without your awareness? Because the truth is far more disturbing. Your brain may be working against your ambitions. Your fears may be disguising themselves as procrastination. Your environment may be silently shaping your decisions. And the habits you blame on laziness may actually be symptoms of something much deeper. Today, we're uncovering the psychology of the ambitious but lazy. And by the end of this video, you may discover that the thing holding you back isn't what you think it is.
Part 1. The hidden fear nobody talks about. Here's something most people never realize. Many people procrastinate not because they don't care, but because they care too much. Think about it. Why do people delay important projects? Why do they postpone opportunities? Why do they avoid starting businesses, writing books, creating content, or pursuing their biggest goals? Because action creates risk, and risk creates fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of judgment, fear of discovering they're not as capable as they hoped. As long as the dream remains inside your imagination, it stays perfect, untouched, unlimited, safe. But the moment you act, reality begins testing the dream. And many people unconsciously avoid that test, not because they lack ambition, because they're protecting themselves from disappointment. Suddenly, "I'll start tomorrow" becomes emotional protection, a shield against failure, a way to preserve hope without confronting reality. Sometimes procrastination is not laziness. Sometimes it's fear wearing a disguise. Part 2. Your brain hates expensive action. Now, things get even stranger. Your brain has one primary mission: survival. Not success, not greatness, not wealth, not your dreams. Survival. For most of human history, conserving energy increased the chances of staying alive. The less unnecessary effort you spent, the better your chances of survival. So your brain evolved to love comfort, predictability, immediate rewards, and efficiency. Unfortunately, modern success demands the opposite. Building a business requires uncertainty. Learning new skills requires effort. Creating content requires consistency. Building wealth requires delayed gratification. The future rewards sacrifice. The brain rewards comfort. Every time you choose between scrolling social media and working on your goals, you're not fighting laziness. You're fighting ancient biological programming. Comfort pays immediately, success pays later, and the brain almost always prefers immediate rewards. Part 3. The painful paradox. Imagine two people. The first person has no goals, no vision, no ambition. They simply drift through life. The second person dreams constantly. They imagine success, freedom, achievement, a better future. Ironically, the second person often suffers more, because every day they see the gap between who they are and who they could become. The ambitious but inactive person lives inside this gap, a gap filled with guilt, frustration, regret, and eventually a dangerous conclusion. Maybe I'm just lazy. But laziness is often the symptom, not the cause. The real causes hide beneath the surface.
Part 4. Your environment may be controlling you. Most people blame themselves. Very few examine their environment. Yet environment often beats willpower every single time. Place a healthy person in a room full of distractions. Eventually, their focus weakens. Place a distracted person inside an environment designed for productivity, their behavior improves. Human behavior is heavily influenced by surroundings. If your phone constantly demands attention, focus becomes difficult. If distractions surround you, distraction becomes normal. If everyone around you accepts mediocrity, ambition starts feeling strange. People underestimate this invisible force. You are not only a product of your decisions, you are also a product of your environment. And your environment quietly shapes your future every day.
Part 5. The Identity Trap. Now we arrive at one of the most dangerous traps of all. The sentence, "I am lazy," sounds harmless, but it can become a prison. Notice the difference. I acted lazily today versus I am lazy. One describes behavior, the other creates identity. And identity is powerful because people naturally act in alignment with who they believe they are. Someone who sees themselves as disciplined looks for evidence of discipline. Someone who sees themselves as lazy looks for evidence of laziness. Over time, the mind begins protecting the story, even if the story is false. That's why changing behavior is difficult, because behavior follows identity, and identity follows repeated evidence. Stop asking, "How do I become motivated?" Start asking, "What kind of person am I becoming?" That question changes everything.
Part 6. The power of small wins. Most ambitious people make one critical mistake. They believe big goals require big actions. But the brain fears large resistance. It accepts small resistance. Writing one page feels easier than writing a book. Recording one video feels easier than building a media empire. Walking for 10 minutes feels easier than transforming your health. Small actions feel insignificant, but that's exactly why they work. Small actions create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. Consistency creates identity. And identity creates transformation. Every extraordinary achievement begins with something small. Something almost invisible. Something repeated.
Part 7. The truth about discipline. This brings us to the biggest misconception about success. People think disciplined individuals are constantly motivated. They're not. That's an illusion. Disciplined people simply stop negotiating with themselves. When it's time to work, they work. When it's time to learn, they learn. When it's time to act, they act. Not because they always feel like it, because they've trained themselves to move before emotion arrives. This is one of the most important truths you'll ever hear. Successful people do not act because they feel motivated. They often feel motivated because they act. Action comes first. Motivation follows. Not the other way around. So, are you really lazy? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you're carrying hidden fears. Maybe your brain prefers comfort over growth. Maybe your environment is quietly working against you. Maybe you've trapped yourself inside an outdated identity. The ambitious but lazy person is rarely broken. They are conflicted. Part of them wants the future. Part of them wants safety. Part of them wants growth. part of them wants comfort. The question isn't whether ambition exists inside you. It clearly does. The question is, which voice will you feed tomorrow? The one that protects comfort or the one that builds your future? Because every remarkable life begins the same way, not with perfect motivation, not with a giant leap, not with endless inspiration, but with one small action, taken despite resistance. And that action might begin today. If you could change one habit starting right now, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into psychology, human behavior, and the hidden forces that shape success, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the people who understand the invisible systems governing their lives often gain an advantage over those who don't. And in the next video, we'll uncover another hidden force shaping human behavior. I'll see you there.